I swear, the more you come to understand and get to know God, um, you understand His humor. Um, and again, going back to last episode, just to reiterate, I don't believe God is a personified um, being in the sky that judges us. He is a energy that binds us. He is an algorithm that dictates. Um, but as humans, we personify everything. And so I also am human. And I also personify God in my head, at least. I understand, like I said, what it is, but I still personify it in my head. And as you get to know God, you'll find this humor. It humbles you for sure. um, um, I think that's why a lot of deeply spiritual people tend to be pretty funny, or like something deeply saddening happens and they know how to laugh it off because they see the humor in it. And yeah, I guess part of the humor for me personally um has been the fact that I've been kind of praying and meditating on what I should talk about for this week. And I think I set an intention with myself and with the universe that I want to make a video every week. I think that's a pretty good pace, at least to start. And yeah, I was, going throughout my days and was kind of getting worried, because at the time of this video, it is Sunday. I don't know my watch, but Sunday at I think like 6 a.m. So cutting it pretty close. Cutting it pretty close. And my hair looks crazy again. I put water in it to make it look better, but um part of the humor was that, like, I'm thinking the video is gonna come to me on like Wednesday, on Tuesday, on Thursday. Like, just did not feel compelled to record, did not feel a message, did not feel like I had anything to say. And the humor of is not the humor is not that it came on a Sunday at 6 a.m. The humor is that the humor is that I'm like seeing the similarities in last time. So last time, as if you saw my first episode, you may remember, is that I got my message from a sleep paralysis dream, essentially. I had a sleep paralysis encounter or dream, whatever you want to call it. And I had woken up. Um, I had talked to somebody on the phone. It's about something unrelated. And then like later, it kind of just came to me. And the same thing happened this time where I had a bad dream last night that I'm not gonna get into because it's personal. But I had a bad dream last night, and I don't know. It was unrelated to the message. It just kind of I had the bad dream. I woke up. Had to go pick up my mom from Logan Square because she's a flight attendant, so I had to go get her. She came home. She came home. Um, and yeah, it kind of just came to me. I don't know. It just came to me out of the blue. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is the humor of it all is that I always get a message after a bad dream. And that I think my last message was on a Monday or a Sunday, Saturday. I know it was like almost a week ago. So I have to go check. I feel like maybe it was on a Sunday. But anyways, that was just a little introduction, um I just felt like sharing. But the actual message today is about spiritual exercise and how, you know, when we look at the mind, the body, and our spirit, they're very similar in the sense that exercise is the same. Um, you need to do it often. You need to do it consistently. You need to do enough that it hurts, but not too much where that you're incapable of continuing on. You can't injure yourself. You can't do too much. It's a nice balance. You should be working out like once every other day to every day, and then give yourself a day or two of rest, right? And I believe that's the same for everything, your body, your mind, and your spirit. Because, if you really look at it, it is all the same. Like, okay, my mind, I should be studying every day. I should be reading. I should be, you know, doing this. Oh, spirit, I should be praying. I should be meditating. I should be reading my word, right? Whether you're Muslim, whether you're Christian, whether you're atheist, even, your word can be the Quran, it could be the Bible, it could be the Bhagavad Gita. I have it, I just have to read it. I'm probably butchering that. It could be a self-help book. It could be Atomic Habits. It can be um, you know um, a book on meditation. It could be so much, right? And so part of spiritual exercise, mental exercise, physical exercise is being consistent, but not doing too much where you burn out, where you hurt yourself. Finding a balance to it. Um, but the big thing about exercise is that in a way it is suffering. If you want your bicep to grow, you need to put it through pain, essentially. You need to rip microscopic tears into the muscle. You need to, like, there is some destruction there. There is some suffering there. That is understood by many when it comes to physical exercise. And what a lot of people don't realize is it's the same for mental and spiritual. You read too long, you get a headache. You get brain fog. You're like, what am I doing, right? And with spiritual exercise, there's a common theme where people feel that after becoming spiritual, after being saved, or after encountering God, their life gets harder. It's like, oh, isn't this supposed to make my life easier? Isn't this supposed to help? And yeah, it is supposed to help in the same way that exercise is supposed to help. Like, exercise helps, but geez, I don't want to wake up at 6 a.m. to go run, right? It sucks. It doesn't feel great. Afterwards it does. Afterwards, once you learn the lessons, once you experience, then it feels good. But in the moment, it is suffering, in a way. And so yeah, like we encounter God, we, become spiritual, we become, whatever, like I said, whatever religion, whatever belief you have, when you start to encounter it, it's almost like a spotlight is being shown on all your problems and a lot of the things you need to fix. And because of that, ignorance is bliss, like when I was in my darkest, my darkest pit, when I was depressed and I wanted to hurt myself, um, it felt good. It was happy in a sense that not that I was happy, but that I didn't have anything to worry about. Like my biggest stress was going through the day, was not hurting myself. Like when your biggest worry is just not dying, because you're just that sad. It's pretty easy in the sense that not that it feels easy, but like there's not really too much to worry about. It's like, oh, I'm driving too fast, I might crash. Oh, well, I want to die anyways, right? Oh, I got an F on my test. Well, I want to die anyways, so whatever, So it's like there's not really much to worry about there. Um, and when you hit rock bottom, what do they say? The only way to go is up. And when you're at the top of the mountain, you get worried because, it's a long way down, you start to, oh shit. Um, and so, yeah, when we become spiritual, when we open our eyes, it gets rough, very fast. It becomes treacherous. It becomes, long and arduous and just, it's just like exhausting. It's like I gotta wake up at 6 a.m. to go work out. You know. I gotta pray today, even though like I just don't feel like it. You know. I have to love my enemy. All these things you gotta do. Um, and so the reason I'm kind of bringing this up, spiritual exercise, suffering, is because for me in my life, you know, it's like whenever I pray for something, I get suffering, you know. Um, there's like a joke within the spiritual community, within the Christian community, that that is like, oh, don't ever pray for patience, because when you pray for patience, God is gonna, he's gonna fuck with you, he's gonna send speed bumps, he's gonna send crying babies, he's gonna send, someone's gonna spill their drink on your shirt, and he's gonna test your patience. And so it's like, oh, don't pray for patience, because then God is gonna fuck with you. And it's true, you know. And I don't want anyone to feel excluded. I wear this because of, you know, I'm not Christian per se. I wouldn't say that I'm Christian in the same way that Jesus wouldn't say he was Christian. Um, I'm, I'm spiritual in the same way that Jesus is. He didn't assign himself to a religion. He didn't he didn't really like, what's a good way to put it? Follow rules. The whole premise of Jesus is that he came and he was pretty punk rock. He just came and started breaking all the rules. The Pharisees were like, "Hey, you can't do that," and he was like, take it, up yours. And so I don't know why I just felt a calling to speak on this, but when I wear this or when I speak on Christianity, um, I say that because that's the way I grew up and I'm familiar with it. I have the Quran. I need to read it. Like I said, I have the Bhagavad Gita. Vita. I have it. I need to read it. Like I'm open to all religions because it's just more knowledge at the end of the day. In the same way that Jesus studied his texts, you know, it's just knowledge, but it's not, it's not the end all be all, you know. um, and it's just familiar. You know, I grew up in a Christian school. I grew up reading the Bible. I read the Bible now. It's just familiar, you know. Um, but yeah, I just wanted to speak on that because I don't want. I think my whole thing with this channel is I don't want anyone to feel excluded, whether you're any religion or whether you're atheist. Because even going back to what I was saying, the psychological, or I'll get to that actually in a second. But I'm gonna speak on what I'm speaking on, and then I'm gonna get to the psychological, logical explanation to some of these things. But so as I was saying, God tests us. He tests us. And why does he test us? Because logically, if you want to exercise something, if you want something to become better, it needs to go through suffering. That's just, you know, you see it everywhere. The butterfly in the cocoon, right? You open the cocoon yourself, it's going to die because it needed that suffering to become strong. And so, why does life get tougher when we become spiritual, when we start reading our texts, when we start meditating and praying? Because, you know, now it's time to get better. Now it's time to work. Now it's time to, you know, to do all these things, you know. And so recently in my life, I've been praying for God to remove my pride. Because pride comes before fall, and I'm noticing a trend in my life. A lot of spirituality is just trying to recognize your cycles that are in your life and trying to disrupt them. You know, oh, I have a cycle where, you know, whenever I see this, I do this, or whenever I feel this, I do this, and I'm trying to break that cycle. And so, one of the cycles in my life that I'm working on at this very moment is my pride, because I've noticed that I have this cycle where I'm like down emotionally, spiritually, um, and I just feel very like down on myself, on my confidence. You know, the way I see things. You know, I'm pessimistic. I'm just like, oh, I don't have any faith. And then, you know, God will test me. I'll have faith. You know, I'll get better. You know, but it's like while this is all happening, my head is getting bigger. And then I get to a peak. And then, you know, pride comes before fall. And then, you know, I'll get to a peak where I'm very prideful. You know, like I wake up in the morning, I'm like playing like, you know, EDM music, and I'm like, you know, mogging in the fucking bathroom mirror, and just, you know, like, I'm like, oh my God, I'm the shit, you know, I'm the guy, you know, I'm the guy, you know. And then, you know, what comes shortly after that, you know, is the fall. You know, something happens, I get in on my head, I start overthinking, you know, and then it restarts the cycle, and it's just over and over and over again. And um, I've noticed over time this cycle has gotten smaller and less um, less powerful. I don't know a good word for that, but what I'm trying to explain is that in the past, maybe it would be in the process of like 3 months, and then when I crash, it's like huge, and like maybe I get small depressive symptoms again, or you know, I stop going out, or I lose my spark, or X, Y, and Z, right? And I feel like over time it's been getting smaller, and you know, I never prayed for God to remove my pride up until recently. But I do feel like I was naturally working on it subconsciously. You know, I was shortening it, and so now I feel like it's shorter. You know, maybe it's like a week, a few weeks, you know, a month. And when I crash, when I have my fall, it's not as drastic. I'm not, you know, getting as much depressive symptoms. Like, I'm not as, like, self-destructive. I'm not losing my light completely, you know. And recently I've been praying for, God to remove my pride. God, remove my pride, help me to have humility, you know. Um and as I said, when you pray for these things, God tests you, because it's like, I'm not just gonna give it to you. You gotta prove it, and you prove it through exercise. That's why whenever you see someone with a good body, it's like, okay, they deserve that body because they have it. They obviously did something to get that, right? Um, oh, what about steroids? You get what I'm trying to say. And even with steroids, you still had to put a lot of work to get that body. It's not like you take steroids and you immediately become a bodybuilder, you know. But anyways, off topic. But yeah, I've been praying for God to remove my pride, and He's been, giving me opportunities to exercise, and it's, it's crazy how quick He works, or he, she, they. It doesn't matter. It's an energy, right? But I'm just personifying a he because I'm a he, right? But whatever. Um, it's crazy how God is quick with it, You pray for something, you pray for patience, and within that, same prayer, fucking, I don't know, your kid's banging on the door, bah, 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 bah. Or, like if the bird is like chirping extra loud, I don't know. But, God has been testing my pride, and there's a lot of moments where my pride comes out, where, within my personal life, I want to take care of people. I don't want them to take care of me. I don't want to receive help. I don't want to hear advice. I just don't want to accept things, you know. And I feel like even with their exercise, it's like, there's friction there, like with the moments that I've been tested, I don't even feel like I've passed, the test. I feel like I'm barely passing. um, and the crazy part too is I'm pretty self-aware. I'm pretty self-aware about a lot of the things that I pray for or that I'm doing, and so literally while it's happening, I'm like, oh, this is a test of my pride, and I'll literally like say it out loud. I'm like, oh, this is a test of my pride. And I'm still not even passing the test. It's because like that pride is just so big. You know, um, it's one thing to like understand it. It's another thing to consume it. For it to nourish you, for you to like really, really, consume it. And a big problem in my life has always been understanding things logically, or from like just reading it or knowing it, but then putting it in practice, and so like I'll see it and I'm like, oh, this is God testing my pride, and then I'll be like, but I don't want to do that. you know um and a big one for me as a man has been through like money, like just not wanting to receive help, wanting to like have so much money so that I can provide. As a man, you want to provide. I want to become wealthy one day, and the only reason is to provide. I don't really need much. I'm fine being poor. It's not until there's other people in my life and I can provide where I start to worry about money. And it's like, no, I need this. I need to get it now. I need it now. You know. Um And a lot of times too, our body is connected. So it's like if you want to work on your bicep, you're also maybe working on your back or your shoulder, right? Because everything is connected. You push with your chest, you're also using your triceps, right? Everything is connected. Your body's connected and the universe is connected. And so I've noticed that a big reason why I have so much pride is because of my lack of faith. Because with the whole money scenario, I'll have all this pride and I'm like, no, I can't do that. No, I can't. I need to do this. I need to. No, 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 no. And, God is kind of just like, oh, like, you don't trust me? You don't think you'll be okay? You don't think, you know, I'll provide? And a lot of it is on us. I'm not saying provide isn't like God gives handouts. God does not give handouts. But in the sense that He'll open doors, and in those moments of worry, in those moments of pride, maybe those doors aren't open in that moment. But we just had to walk a little bit to the right, a little bit to the left, a little bit forward. And then we're like, oh, there's a corner here, and there was a door over there. Open the entire time. I just didn't see it. Because a lot of times, in my life, certain doors were open way before I was even worried about it. I just didn't know about it. I'll be worried about money and I'm like, oh my God, like I wake up and my account's empty and I'm like, what the fuck? I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this. And then, I'm like, well, you know what? Like, let me just have a little bit of faith, just a little bit. And I'll head outside, with no bread, thinking like, how am I gonna figure this out? And then I look in a corner, and I'm like, oh shit, like I had money here. Oh shit, this was okay. Oh shit, I can do this. Oh shit, there's another option, that doesn't cost money. Oh shit, people are here to provide also and help me out. Oh shit, I'm cursing too much. You get the point, is that there's opportunities where we don't see it. And all we had to do was have some faith. The passage I'm reading right now in the Bible was all about that. It's the where I'm at right now in the gospel is not immediately, but sometime after Jesus had fed the 5,000, I believe. Um, and there comes a moment where this is what I say, like God has a sense of humor, because literally the disciples are like, we got no bread. And I'm like, man, I woke up saying the same thing. I'm like, man, we got no bread. And, Jesus scolds them because he's like, do you have no faith? Like, I literally just fed 5,000 people like 2 weeks ago, like 3 days ago, I fed 5,000 people and you're concerned about bread? Like, what are you worried about? Like, chill. And I had a moment like that where I was, kind of like, man, I woke up and I'm like, oh, I got no bread. Like, what am I going to do? And I just kind of had to think about it. I'm like, wait a minute. Like, no, like time and time and time and time again, like I have been provided for by God, right? Through other people, through circumstances. But at the end of the day, like I said, God is our connection to everything. And so it's like, it was always okay. Like I never, if I would have worried, I would have gotten to my destination faster. If I removed my pride, I would have gotten to my destination faster. And so, like, there really is no reason for it. There's no reason for worry. There's no reason for pride because it just slows you down at the end of the day. Um, Going back to my last episode about surrendering your fear, it's the same concept where, a lot of a lot of the things we have to talk, a lot of the things we have to tackle in spirituality is solely for the fact that it just slows us down on living life, on loving, on experiencing. You know, you have fear and you sit at home and it's like, oh, well, I had fear because I've never been to this type of event before, and I'm worried about how people are going to perceive me. You just stopped yourself from living life. Oh, I don't want to get into the stock market because I'm fearful of I'm gonna lose my money. Well, you just missed out on maybe like $1,000. Maybe not immediately. Maybe you would have lost some at first, but like you just missed out on an opportunity. And so relating that to what I'm saying now is like, a lot of our spats, a lot of our spiritual hurdles are just realizing that these things are just hindering us and slowing us down. And if we move them, we'll live a better life, right? But, not an easy life. It's still exercise. And I'm not even done. I'm like still working on my pride. I'm still trying. I'm still working on my faith. But it's tough. It's exercise. I'm only getting 5 reps in. Okay, but maybe in a week I could get 10 reps in. Maybe in 3 weeks I could get 20 reps in. It's like we're always getting better, and that's it. 1% better every day. And writing on that 1% better every day to kind of bring this back to a logical, psychological perspective. Um, it's like manifestation. Oh, you want to get logical and you bring a manifestation? Who is this guy? you know, um, Manifestation is very logical and very psychological. They say, if you want to become rich, do what a rich person does. That is manifestation at the end of the day. If I had to explain manifestation in simplest of terms, in simplest of logical, psychological terms, manifestation is forcing your brain to think about a specific thing so much that you start to change your behavior because subconsciously you're just always thinking about it. If I manifest, I want to lose weight. Okay, when I reach for the donut, I'm gonna be like, oh wait a minute, I was trying to lose weight. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm gonna do that. I'm not gonna eat that donut. It's like you're just reminding yourself, and obviously that is work too. Like you can't just be like, I'm gonna manifest, I'm gonna lose weight, and never think about it again. Like the whole premise is that you're constantly thinking about it, you're constantly obsessing over it. Like I'm gonna be rich one day and I'm gonna be famous, and you're just like constantly like thinking about it and constantly sitting in that. And then that's why there's different methods of manifestation. Some of it is like literally psyching your brain out into thinking that you have it already, into thinking that it's in front of you. Like some manifestation techniques are just exactly that. Is literally like sitting there with your eyes closed and being like, oh, like I'm in my new house, or oh, like like you're literally seeing your future, and you're like, it's here already. I have it already. And you know, going back to, if you want to become rich, act like a rich person. If you believe you're already a rich person, how are you going to act like a rich person? You get what I'm trying to say? So it's like, at the end of the day, they're just psychological tricks. You're tricking your brain into believing something. And I say trick lightly because, is it really a trick if it works? You know what I'm saying? Like if it works. And so going back to God testing us, prayer. When I pray for God to remove my pride, I'm um I'm constantly being reminded of my pride. Like I said, in those moments where I'm like, oh, God is testing my pride here. If I didn't pray for God to remove my pride, from a logical, scientific perspective, that outcome, that in that circumstance probably would have happened. Like still, because me praying is not, really change other people's decisions. And I mean, everything's connected at the end of the day, so I could be wrong, right? But what I'm trying to say is like theoretically, if that circumstance, if that situation would have happened regardless, the only difference is when I prayed for God to remove my pride, I was thinking about it and I connected it where I'm like, wait a minute, this is I can exercise here, you know. You don't notice a gym until you're like, wait a minute, I gotta lose weight, and now you notice every gym that you pass by. You don't notice a yellow car until you're like punch buggy yellow, and now you're like, damn, there's a lot of yellow cars. You know, that's the psychological phenomenon I'm talking about. Is once you recognize something, you recognize it everywhere. And so part of prayer, part of manifestation is recognize something so that I see it everywhere so that I can exercise more, you know. God, remove my pride. Oh, I'm prideful here. Oh, I'm prideful here. Oh, I'm prideful here. Oh, I'm prideful here. Oh, I need humility here. Oh, I need humility here. Oh, I need faith here. Oh, I need faith here. You know, it's just, you know, recognizing, you know, at the end of the day. Um and it's funny too cuz I became spiritual because of science, you know. I'm a psych major. I love mind science. Um mind science. It sounds so it sounds so I don't know, unscientific. Um Neuroscience. I'm not a neuroscientist. I don't study neuroscience, so I don't want to say neuroscience because neuroscience is like, you know, like your brain, the systematic brain synapses, and you know, oh, I'm sad, so this part of my brain lights up. You know, psychology is more like, you know, behavior based. But the reason I became spiritual is just because, you know, it's because of the placebo. You know, and the fact that, you know, we can literally believe ourselves into becoming better. That was insane to me. um and I couldn't ever find a reason. You know, there's no explanation, there's no like, it's just insane, you know, like that I can believe something and then I become better, you know. But that's the point of placebo, is you need to believe it. And the reason placebo works with anybody is because they don't know it's placebo. They don't know it's a water pill. They're like, oh yeah, this is medicine. I'm gonna get better. And then they get better. You know? You tell them it's a water pill, now it doesn't work, you know? And that's where faith comes in. That's where spirituality comes in. That's where God comes in. Is because like, you know, you have to believe it. You have to like really believe it and do the work and do the exercise, you know? Otherwise it doesn't work. And I guess the reason why I'm bringing that up is because I did get a message earlier in the week. I lied earlier, but it didn't feel right. Like it didn't feel like the full message, and it was about, you know, icons. You know, I think that's the right word. Iconography. I think that's the right word. I'm not sure. I don't want to look it up because then this video is gonna end. Um, but symbols. You know, words. A lot of spirituality is just connecting science to certain words, and we don't see it as science. You know, there's this whole divide within the community of like spirituals and scientists, and it's like we're all one the same. You know, it's just we have different words for things. You call it prayer, they call it meditation. You know, they call it placebo, they call it faith. You know, they call it an algorithm, they call it God. You know, it's just like it's all the same thing. It's just different words for it. um but yeah, I don't know. See, this is why I didn't want to. This is why it wasn't the message, because I brought it up and I immediately don't know where I wanted to go with that. But yeah, I guess, you know, the reason I wanted to bring it up is because, like, you know, our there's a passage in the Bible that speaks on like God being beyond our understanding. And it's very hard to. Oh, I remember now where I was going with that. But it's very hard to comprehend certain things of why things happen. And so instead of leaving it alone, we attach a word to it. Oh, this is a rock. This is a tree. This is God. Oh no, now it's actually science. It's the same thing. Um, Spirituality originally started, you know, because it was kind of connect. Well, it wasn't kind of. It was connected to religion, right? And it was because we were trying to understand science. We were trying to understand the universe. Why does it rain? Why does it, storm? Why do we have drought? Oh, it's because God hates us and God is punishing us. So we have to sacrifice a virgin woman, and that's when you lost it, you know. Um, we have to, we have to do all these rituals and stuff, and I don't know. That's another topic, but I guess the point I'm trying to make is, a lot of the words we use, a lot of the symbols we use is to understand, to bring this abstract idea to our reality. One thing, I'll give you an example. And so this is where I was trying to get with this, with manifestation, with faith. A lot of people, even within the spiritual community, and obviously within the scientific community, are very split on crystals. This is tiger's eye. It's for courage. And the thing about logic and the thing about science is that it's very rigid. God in the universe is not rigid. There is rules, don't get me wrong, but when I say it's not rigid, it's not because there's not rules, it's because it's beyond our understanding and because it's abstract. You know, God is very abstract. It's like we can't understand it. It's like trying to understand a white light. It's like, what, describe it? I don't know. It's just a flash. Like, what I'm saying? There's nothing to describe, right? God is very abstract. The universe is very abstract, but there is also rules. We just don't understand them completely. And we're trying to understand them. And that's why we have all these, that's why I'm here now, is because I'm trying to understand these rules on spirituality, on science, on X, Y, and the third, right? And so with crystals, if you do some sort of lab study on the crystals to try to find courage in the crystals, where is the courage? You won't find any. You won't find any magic here. The magic is here, not here. This is just a recognition of courage. It's a symbol. The same way this is a symbol. This calms me down. When I get nervous, I rub it and it calms me down. Does this have a calming properties? No. If I give this to, an atheist, they're not going to get calmed down by this. They might be like, that is morbid. Why do you have a symbol of a man getting crucified on a cross? That is morbid. They're not going to get calmed down by this. Like it doesn't work for everybody. The same way this doesn't work for everybody, because you need to believe it, right? This, in essence, is a placebo. It only works because I believe it works. Therefore, it works. You see where I'm getting with this? Like it's complicated because it's like, well, it doesn't work because well, it does work because it does. Like, does placebo not work? Well, it's a water pill, so yes, it has no, but it does. Placebo is a concept that is heavily respected by a lot of scientists and is assumed as true. You know, there's not a whole lot of debate on placebo. I mean, everyone kind of recognizes that it's a thing. And so, why don't we recognize this? Why don't we recognize this? And it's because pride. It's because of pride. It's like, oh, it's stupid. X, Y, and the third. But it's like, when I see this, it's a reminder to have courage. And when I need courage, I wear it because it's just with me. It's like, oh, well, I need to find as many punch buggy yellows as I can. Well, I'm gonna wear a punch buggy yellow shirt. So whenever I look in the mirror, I'm like, oh yeah, I should be looking for punch buggy yellows. You know, that's what this is. That's what this is. Oh, I wear this because it reminds me of, you know, that I should be like Christ, right? That I should be like Jesus. Not because it has powers. Because if there's a demon, I'm gonna be like, Holy Espiritu Santo, like, no, it's just a reminder at the end of the day. It's just a recognition of promises that I made for myself. And this is a recognition of promises that I made for myself. These are all recognitions of promises that I made to myself. This one, I don't even know what it means. I'm not Catholic. I set an intention. And that's why in manifestation and spiritual work, there's a lot of intentional work. You have to set an intention, and then it works. So my intention on this is devotion. I want to devote myself to my passions, into like helping people, and into Christ, because I need to, this is my devotion. Like, I used to say it was discipline, but no, it's devotion. Like, my devotion to myself, right? Going to the gym, X, Y, and the third. I just got this one recently. It's a tiger's eye, and this one is for protection. Oh, what do you mean protection? Like, so it's, you were gonna get an accident, now you didn't? No, it's part of that protection is faith, understanding that I am gonna be okay. That, like, my family has my back. And whenever my family gives me evil eye, part of that protection is connected to them. My mom gave me this evil eye, and it's like, okay, this protection comes from her. I know she has my back. I know it's gonna be okay because she's there, right? And I've already told you what this one is: tiger's eye, courage, right? I wear it for strength. It reminds me to be strong. Um, and so, yeah, a lot of these symbols are strictly just for reminders. You know, there's what is it? The Lord's Prayer in the Bible. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. It's just more to it, but even with that prayer, I never really understood that prayer until recently, because as I've grown in my spirituality, as I've grown in my connection to God, I realized, man, that prayer really does sum it all up. There's a passage in the Bible that I don't like, where it's like, oh, don't pray as the it's like pretty much saying don't pray as like the other people do. Pray like this, kind of insinuating that other way of prayer is bad. Um, like, it's like, oh, what is the word? I forgot the word. If you know it, comment it. But it's a word for people that study like different religions and different spiritualities. It's technically what I am, I think, on the technical term, but it's pretty much saying don't pray as these people do. Pray like this, because the way they do is not good, or it's bad, right? And I don't agree with that. But when I read the prayer, the Lord's Prayer or whatever it's called, I realized, man, like, it really sums up a lot. It sums up, having faith, having, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, like having respect for the divine, right? Because like I said and previously, like I think in the last episode, like, oh, like, we don't have control. We have to release our control because we don't have control. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. on earth as it is in heaven, right? So thy kingdom come, thy will be done. So, going back to my devotion, it's like I know what I need to do is going to happen because it's already happened in my mind. Going back to manifestation, you know, um, on earth as it is in heaven, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in, give us this day our daily bread. Give us this day our daily bread. Tying back to everything I spoke about, bread is like our substance, it's kind of like our exercise, like give us this day our daily bread is like, it's good. It's like every day is a good day to be alive because we love. And going back to the suffering, like that suffering is good too because it is making us strong. It's bread in the end of the day. Like it's fueling us, it's in the same way that bread gives you strength, it makes you feel energized, it makes you, food, right? I don't mean bread literally, but it that is, the exercise at the end of the day is bread too. I used to believe that there was blessings and lessons, and I've come to realize, like, no, they're both the same thing. A lesson is a blessing because you've learned something, and a blessing is a blessing, but that's where I'm kind of getting at. And I just spoke for 51 minutes, so I'm gonna cut it short. Because I could yap forever. Maybe I'll split this into 2 episodes. But yeah, um, do your exercise, and just have faith that it's all gonna be okay. Because a lot of times the suffering, a lot of times the trials and tribulations is needed for you to conquer the world. Is needed for you to achieve all the things you want to achieve. You know, and if you can see the big picture, like you would be like, oh yeah, of course. One thing I'll leave it off with is one thing that makes me feel better is telling myself, oh, 10 years from now, when I achieve what I wanted, 5 years from now, and when I say achieve, like I'm not gonna say I'm gonna achieve what I wanted in 10 years. Like I don't know. I'm never gonna achieve what I wanted. Like I'm always gonna strive for more. Like if I achieve what I wanted next year, then I'm gonna want more. And I don't mean in like a financial sense, like, oh, I wanna be Elon Musk and have $1 billion. No, I mean like if my goal is to help people and I help, and I'm like, oh, I want to help 100 people. Okay, if I do that tomorrow, then now I need to help 200 people, 500, 1,000. So it's like you should always be striving for more, right? But one thing that I say is, oh, 5 years from now, I'm gonna be laughing about this. It's like, well, 5 years from now, I'm gonna be laughing about this because I'm gonna be sitting, looking at everything, at my empire that I've created, and my family, my beautiful family that I've raised and cared for, and the hundreds and thousands of people that I've helped, you know, and I'll be like, yeah, what was I worried about, and it makes me feel better. And going back to manifestation, it's like, well, it's already happened. It's gonna happen, and so that makes me feel better that it already happened and that it is gonna happen. And so I just have to chill and have faith, and keep trying because I'm gonna get there. You gotta be delusional about yourself, you know. But yeah, that's all I got for today. Stay safe, stay healthy, exercise. And yeah, I love you guys. Peace.